It's been a frustrating morning. When we last left, we were dry fitting some of these tiles, and I was making the cuts for the flange, thought we were making good progress. And then when I lined these things back up and tried to fit them, I was realizing that the tiles were still showing up short underneath the trim. And every time I went back and forth with my measurements, it wasn't working. And you can go ahead and show, as I would try to line these up, these 3-inch offcuts that I had measured were showing up underneath the trim board, and nothing was working, and I could not figure out why. So I had to stop, retrace my steps, and figure out where was the mistake, because I know how to do math, and I know how to make this work, and I could not figure out, and it seemed like we were somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/4 to 1/2 inch off. Every time I tried to make an adjusting measurement, it was still wrong, and these offcuts were actually showing up short of the trim, and it was an exposed raw edge, and that looked terrible. Even if it's hidden here, that's just, you don't want to do that. So we kind of retraced my steps, and I realized I goofed. When I verified the entire width measurement from the closet door to this wall, my wife did exactly what I asked her to do. At the time, I had apparently told her to put the tape measure at the end of the trim board, the edge of the trim board, not the sheetrock. Well, it just so happens that, guess what? This trim board is 1/2 inch. When we remeasured from the sheetrock to the center line of the threshold where the closet door is, guess what? 216.5 inches. So in effect, that's going to increase the size of my offcuts by about 1/2 inch. I did the math, and you're getting into 1/16 of an inch on a couple of places. But we're going to redo the offcuts so we have enough to go underneath the trim, and then reach out and then cover the span within the area here in the bathroom, and then we can go ahead and work out and have them all fit. So the downside of that is these cuts are all, I've already made, are too short. But I'm going to remake them, and they're all going to be roughly 1/2 inch longer. I'm not going to video that. You've already seen me do that. No point in doing that again. We're just going to make the correct offcuts, and then we're going to retrim for this flange and try to get this started, because I have a feeling if we can get past this part, this is the part that's just slowing us down. Getting this thing started, if we can get started here, once we get here to this open area, we can start putting tile down, and it's going to go a lot quicker. So we're going to get this part fixed, get our offcuts correct, and then we'll proceed. So we'll be back as soon as the correct offcuts are made.
The area.
All right, we've got our measurements corrected, we've got our pieces lined up, we've got corrected offcuts, and we've created a new long offcut, and we've already cut out the space for the flange. It fits perfectly. And now we've taken a little template, just a 7-inch template for the flange, and marking where the edges of the flange intersect the piece. We're just taking a magic marker and tracing an inside edge that matches the flange exactly, and then a little mercy, what I'm calling a mercy zone outside that. So when I go and take the angle grinder to cut that loose, the hole will just fit in right into place. So we've got this marked, so I'm going to go out with the angle grinder. I'm going to cut this guy up. Okay, it is about 7 o'clock Saturday evening. It's been another challenging day. We've not made as much progress as we'd intended. We already mentioned the measuring issue. That forced us to recut a bunch of tiles, which we've done. We were making more progress, thought we were getting some momentum, and then we discovered that in the course of our layout, we had this very strange piece right here that required an extremely deep U shape. In fact, it only left a little over 1 inch of material, around a 4.5 inch width right here. I tried 3 different ways of cutting it, and it just broke the tile all 3 times. I even went and got a different kind of saw. I got a wet saw to try to more gently do it, and it split the tile too. So that's 3 tiles that got broken that we're having to salvage for offcuts. So we decided that what we're going to do, it's not perfect. It's certainly probably not the pro solution, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut a square piece to fit, and we're going to put a tiny patch that's about 4 by 1. It's literally going to go right here, and then we'll cut another square that will have the net effect of having 1 tile width. It just won't be continuous, because I'm frankly tired of I've wasted a lot of the day just trying to solve that one problem, and realized it wasn't worth agonizing, because this is going to be seen so little. I mean, someone coming in here to use the bathroom, if they're going to come in and gripe about that one little tile, I don't know what to tell you. So that's the decision we've made. We've made all the cuts for all the other tiles in here. We were able to use our laser line and the chalk line. Everything seems to size up just right. I trimmed a little bit off of the cuts that I made for the flange pieces. And what I did is, and this is just something that I did to help me organize them, I took a pencil, because it wipes off real easily, and I made witness lines on all of the wall-facing end cuts. So I know when I put them back, I know exactly where they should line up, and then I can verify their positioning with the laser. And also what I did is I made a row numbering system that started with the farthest back row as row 1, and the farthest back row is row 1. That's over here. And I labeled the tiles A, B, and C, just going from left to right. This is pile 4, and it's just a matter of, it's really just one long offcut, and then it will be followed by a full-length tile. Here's row 5. Row 6 goes right next to the vanity. It's got one cut that has a very small U that goes right here, so that should be no problem. So ultimately what we've got is we've got enough tile to go ahead and do this bathroom. We're going to start with this stack right here. This is stack 3. This is the 3 and 5/8 inch offcut. This is the second piece. This is the third piece. We'll start there. We'll work backwards to fill in the area around the toilet flange, and then we'll work forward to fill in around the vanity, and then out to here. And we're gonna actually mix up some thinset and actually get to work and start doing this. So we'll meet you out in the garage to mix up some thinset. Okay, we're gonna mix up some thinset. Now I am using Mapei Ultraflex large format tile. Large format tile is considered anything with a dimension longer than 12 inches on one side, or longer than 15 inches on one side, and 12 by 24 certainly qualifies. Now, the area in that little bathroom that we have started is not going to take anywhere near a full bag. So all I'm going to do for right now, I'm going to mix up about half of this bag. Now I've got my clean water bucket here and my mixing bucket. And I've got an actual dedicated mixer that I picked up at Harbor Freight. One of the things that you see some people do is they'll get a mixing blade and put it onto their regular drill. Well, the only problem with that is this stuff gets really thick and really heavy, and it puts a heck of a load on the motors on your drills. So the mud and mortar dedicated mixing tools operate at lower RPM. They're designed to mix mortar and mud. So I decided it was worth protecting my existing tools, which I use all the time for lots of different things, and go ahead and spend the money on a dedicated mud mixer. That was on sale. It was normally $100. It's on clearance at Harbor Freight for $70. Not a sponsor. They don't. I just bought it with. I bought everything. I'm not sponsored. I'm not big enough to be sponsored. It comes with a mixing paddle. I made a mistake that I just discovered. I went ahead and bought a square-bottomed mixing paddle, because that tends to get down to the corners better, so you can avoid clumps. What I did not notice is that the nozzle, the end that receives the mixing paddle, is threaded on this beast, while mine just wants a 7/8 inch chuck. I can't use it. So that was a kind of a sneaky, and maybe that's one of the reasons they're closing these things out. I don't know in the future. So what we're going to do, since I'm going to mix up a half a bag of the Mapei cement, the thinset, the instructions are to take approximately 7 quarts of water, mix up a whole bag, mix it for 3 minutes, wait 5 minutes, and then stir it for 1 more minute. And if it kind of stands on its own like frosting, then go ahead and use it. Once it is set up, you don't go back and add more water to it, because you ruin it. The chemical process has already started. Since I am only going to be, I think I've only got enough tile and enough area for about half that much. I'm going to make a half a bag, so I'm going to use about 3.5 quarts of water and about half a bag of the thinset, and we'll see how far that carries us. If I need to make more, I'll make more. But that's where we are for right now. So give me just 1 second, and we'll go ahead and get started. Let me go. Okay. here's the thing. Got my box knife so we can open up the bag and put in about half of the. We're going to put in water first, then we'll add the thinset to the water and mix it up. This stuff gets really powdery. It has a lot of stuff in it that probably isn't great to breathe. It does get real powdery when you pour it in. A one-time exposure like this is probably not going to do you. It doesn't do you any good, but it's probably not going to do you any harm. But just because I don't want to wake up with it, if nothing else, I don't want to wake up with a stuffy head cold and the nose full of junk. I'm just going to go ahead and wear a mask. And it's only because I'm going to be right over it mixing it, so I'm going to get the worst cloud of schmutz when it comes up. So you may or may not be able to hear me like this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out about 4 quarts of water. Well, 3.5. This is a 2-quart contraption. Two quarts. Here's 2. There's 3. Okay, so let me just double check my instructions here. We're just going to use it to right about here. I don't have a scale to weigh it. We'll just add more water. About 3 minutes. 8:21. Here we go. 3 minutes. Okay. I forgot to get another bucket of water to put that in so I can clean it off. Now we're going to let it sit for 3 minutes. See, the test is, oh, that's perfect. That's sitting right up the way it's supposed to. So we're going to let that sit for 3 minutes. Okay, minor detail. I got one of my other Harbor Freight or free buckets out, filled it with plain water, and once I was done mixing, I went ahead and dunked it in this water. I turned this power knob here. Spun it, and now that's clean. You let that stuff dry on the blade, and you're pretty much stuck. So, okay, our 3-minute timer is up. So we go for 1 more minute of mixing. Okay, for my money, that's a minute. So let's go wash this out. We're ready to go take this in. Get our trowel. I'm taking some clean water, and we're going to bring in some sponges. Oh, that's...
I had stopped this, but I hadn't.
Okay, I did the official Jeff Thorman finger test about the thickness of the thinset. It held its shape, and it worked just right. So I think my thinset's in pretty good shape. Now, it may be a little difficult to see here on camera, but here is the chalk line that we worked from to line everything up. That's where we're going to start, and we're going to work backwards. So it's going to be a little awkward to get those back in the back. But we're going to start and this is probably a little runnier than I had expected. But not too bad. Could probably have used a little bit more of the material. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just getting the material on the floor. Definitely a little runnier than I probably should have used a little bit more powder. But no harm, we'll figure it out and make it work. No, not a catastrophe by any means. This is a 1/4 by 3/8 by 1/4 trowel. It's a square trowel, not a V-notch. Sometimes with a large format tile, they suggest you use a 1/2 inch. But since we're on concrete, we're not on a deflecting surface, I opted to go with the 1/4 inch. That might be a source of disagreement, and I certainly respect that. I'm going to put a little bit more on here. I'm going to bring this towards me a little bit. Yeah, this is definitely soupier than I expected. Oh, do not let him lick anything. Yeah. Boomer's in here inspecting. He does definitely not need to be licking or tasting any of this. Okay. So we're going to go our line. We're going to give a nice directional trowel this way. Okay. Our number 3 row, here's 3A. And I will be backbuttering the tile. Just a thin layer. Okay. And tile number 1 is going in right now. There, we collapsed our ridges. And tile number 1 is in. It took me a second, but I got it in. All right, there's one tile. So now we'll get the next tile. B. Yeah, this is definitely runnier than I should have. I should have used more powder. I did a poor job of guesstimating. Ooh, just got it. Collapse our ridges coming down to the line right there. And we are right smack on our line, so we're good there. And we will okay, I need one of those sponges. stand up. Back stiff. Okay. Matter of fact, I'm going to put my spacers down. There we go. Nice room for the spacers. No trouble with that. There we go. And we seem to be right on line with our line. Take our margin trowel. Okay, the one I would say that I did make the thin set is definitely too thick, or too thin. I should have used more powder. No doubt about that. Okay, this is going to be a backbreaker if I don't stand up. Okay, my main problem right now. But it's too late to do anything to it. All right, you were looking at the completed tiled bathroom. You know, and you'll notice the first thing is he didn't use the spacers, the levelers. No, I didn't. The more I tried to use them, the more they just seemed a little hanky to me. And maybe that's a bad judgment or inexperience on my part, but I was able to keep a good level grout line by eye and with my laser. And I just didn't see the need after I tried it the first few times, so I just didn't. Now, part of that was also because this area is so cramped. I mean, it's just really difficult to work in here. Maybe when I get out into this broader area, sometime tomorrow, I'll change my mind. Really wanted to push ahead as far as I could. It is 10:30 Saturday night. I'm spent. The unfortunate thing is even a half a bag of thinset, I've still got enough to do maybe 2 or 3 more tiles, but in order to do any more tiles, I'm going to have to do some custom cuts. Dry out. It's already been active for well over an hour, hour and a half, and it's getting thicker, so it's only going to start setting. So we put one more tile out. I've got to do a short cut right here, and then I think it is a 10 3/4 inch cut for this end. And then once we get past that end cut, there are 3 more end cuts. Once we get past those 3 end cuts, we are full speed ahead, full size tiles, no special cuts until we get over here. Hallelujah. The only thing that we've got to do that's special is over here by the cabinet, where we have to do that little angled toe kick that little 45-degree angled toe kick, which the cabinet guy, when he built the house, only put them in that one right there. He didn't put them anywhere else. At least I don't think he did. But we've got to overcome that, and that's about a 10 5/8 inch cut all the way across. But once we get past there, most of this is just straight tiles. And then once we get over here, it's mostly straight tiles. The only time it gets dicey again is when we get to this little divider and this little broom closet. So we're going to go ahead and call it a night. We're going to sacrifice that remaining blob of thinset because you're out. Once you're done for the day, you're tired, you want to finish. He said, let it go, mix up more thinset. And there's a lot of wisdom in that because I am tired, I'm dirty, we need to clean up, and it's already over 10:30 at night. So I'm going to call it a night for the night, but through the magic of YouTube, we will transition you to tomorrow. So see you then. Okay, through the magic of YouTube, it is now Sunday morning. It's about 6:30 a.m. and we're trying to get a head start. My wife did have an obligation up at church, so I'm on my own for at least now. She'll be back a little bit later. But I'm taking the day off to try to get the bulk of the rest of this project done. A little bit of difference in the way I'm dressed this morning. I made some stupid mistakes yesterday. I'm just in a grubby old white t-shirt. I'll be wearing jeans and knee pads today. My lower back is a little stiff this morning. Nothing too bad, but it's a little uncomfortable. And going to try to do a little bit better job of keeping the thinset off of my arms and making it a little bit thicker today than I made it yesterday. Also going to be wearing some gloves, just something you learn in retrospect. Let's take a look at where we are and why we think today's going to go a lot quicker than yesterday. So there's the tile after it sets up overnight. I think the cement or the thinset has cured. I don't know that it's ready to sustain weight. They recommend, I think it's either 12 to 24 or 24 to 48 hours. I'd have to check the bag to make sure. But I think this turned out really well. I'm pleased with the way it looks. I think we were able to maintain some pretty good grout lines. I think we're going to be in really good shape come grouting time. So here's where we have some real positive news. The only custom cuts that we're going to have to make are for that little toe kick where it juts off there at a 45-degree angle. We'll go across there and we'll make another 45 cut at this end. And once these 3 or 4 offcuts are set up, we'll be doing straight tiles all the way through here until we get back down to here. So that's a great space to be in because this will go a lot quicker. We don't have any we don't have any drains, nothing in the floors to obstruct us. We'll just be going straight down the line, throwing down tile. So hopefully today will be a lot more we'll get a lot more progress. And if my knees and back hold out, I'm really hoping that we get this thing done today. It may be another long day, and maybe I'm being optimistic. I don't know, but we really need to get this knocked out. So we're going to go ahead and get dressed, get everything ready to go, mix up some fresh thinset, and we will get back at it. Okay, one thing that's going to be a little bit different about today's video, aside from maybe mentioning a few areas where we have some unusual offcuts, probably won't do as much detail work. This will be mostly applying tiles. Since we're applying large tiles everywhere, today's video should go quicker. But I did want to make one observation about the thinset that I mixed up yesterday. It was pretty evident after I mixed that thinset up that it was way too thick. It was more of a milkshake consistency rather than the thicker cement consistency that it still set up okay. It's cured just fine, but it was way too runny. It made it hard to work with. It made it really messy to work with too. Turns out I only took out 18.7 pounds. So I was essentially a quarter off. I will probably go ahead and make the rest of that bag of thinset today because I'm expecting this to take the bulk of the rest of that bag. I'm not going to show you the process of remixing thinset. It's the same thing. I'm just going to use a better mixture of water with the remaining. Okay, it's about 1:25 in the afternoon, Sunday afternoon. Today's going much better. We have not done a lot of videoing because it's basically just putting tile down, but we have already gotten so much more done because we're working in a wide open space. We've gotten as much done in the last hour and a half as we did essentially all day yesterday with all the slow cuts around the flanges and the mismeasurements and everything. But we've got all of the stuff that you see here is installed. It's laid down with thinset, and we actually mixed the remaining 32 pounds of thinset with 4.5 quarts of water, and the mixture is totally different, and it's much better. It works, and it's not nearly as sloppy a consistency. And definitely working out with gloves makes it, your hands will thank you, and keeping these clean in just a bucket of water is much easier. So we're going to press on. We're into full cut tile here. So we're going to probably come back with our last off cut and then fill all of this in. And that's probably when we'll do our next update.